It always comes to this. It's back into another tattoo progress update today. Where I last left off, I showed off a little bit of the red and black and I guess orange and pink and stuff that Rick did in here, and then back here there's a little bit behind the rose and on my kind of collarbone shoulder area, and there's a little bit over here as well. So a little bit in 3 separate places, and most of that is all peeled. Like this stuff in here is just starting to flake, and then all of this stuff over here is already flaked. You'll see that naturally in more videos, but there was actually a little bit more over here than anywhere else, so that's where the brunt of the work was. But again, the brunt of the work wasn't much. I think it was like an hour-and-a-half session, and but it's made a big difference. I really love the new finish of my neck here, and like that nice little bit of texture there really brings focus to the shape of the rosebud, and I think it really flatters the roses in general. And just, you know, having something a little more elaborate in there for the background is a nice touch with how elaborate everything else has gone. It was looking a little flat for my taste, so that's where when we got going on all this texture over here, it was like, oh, we should just bring that up all the way through. And yeah, that will be something like that will happen with the rose sleeve here in the next little while. I won't be hitting that. Like, people will think, oh, because the minute I bring something up, I usually tackle it, which is kind of true. But that won't happen now for a little while. I've got roughly my next month sort of figured out for sessions, but that is kind of in the planning while working away on my legs and other little things. I'll be probably updating the rose sleeve spread to get it more. I want to do some kind of a background with it that's not just as flat as the red. Make a little more of that, and you know, brighten it up quite a bit. Even though it's pretty cool now, I think it can still get better. That's kind of the case with a lot of what I'm doing now up top. It's just refinement, whereas the legs are total chaos to some degree, and abstraction, and sort of a little bit of this, a little bit of that, which ties in nicely to my most recent session here. Very clearly, you'll have seen the thumbnail, and I, oddly enough, was looking forward to doing this one for a long time. So before I get talking about this and why and what and all that, I'll see if I can show it off here. So, oh, it's always such a pain trying to show off leg tattoos. So there he is there in all his glory, and I'm trying to get him up close to the camera, but I'm not that limber. So yeah, there's Mr. Hanky, the most brown on black we've done. There's quite a bit of yellow in there as well, and a lot of Panthera black shading too. Last time you guys seen the bat, he was a lot brighter. He did go through the usual dulling process. Didn't actually look like he was going to. When it was first healing, it looked like it was just going to heal normal, like any normal color tattoo. But over the next few weeks, as he settled in, and some of the colors may come back through here, but it's unlikely on a first pass for it to be that bright. It was looking almost too good for a little while, and some of the colors still do. Like that pink down there and the green next to it. It's really, really fucking solid, but some of the darker colors are obviously fairly pale, and this is where I said to you guys, like, there's no way I can ever be dishonest or lie to you about the results. This one, I'm a little surprised it didn't heal as well as I thought it would, but it's still decent first pass, and all of it's in there. And I did know that the white and the yellow was going to be the worst of it, and that's all through here. You can see that was the last stuff we did, and it was an 8-hour session, so you know, it is what it is. We will be hitting this one again here probably maybe 4 or 5 weeks from now. And then moving along to the candy cane. This one has come out quite a bit more since last time I showed it. All the red is brighter than it was. The yellow is doing pretty good in there, and that opaque background really did the trick. So that is going to be second pass here in 3 weeks. Some of the top surface of the white was the hardest color to get in there, as I often say, and it's the worst saturated of the bunch. That needed the longest to heal, but it's ready to go now, so we'll be doing a second pass on that here soon. And then let's see if I can show off Nosferatu a little bit. So he'll be getting some more love here over the next bit too. But he's doing pretty good. He needs some more throughout his hand and lower part of his face, but the forehead area up here, the top of his head, is pretty bright, so, and that red background is held in really well. But it's really awkward to show off your leg tattoos, so there's Mr. Hanky again. Closer up this time. So anyway, with that done, it's a bit, I'm gonna have to figure out how to do this better, but showing off, especially lower leg tattoos, is just gonna be a pain for a while. So now, I didn't want to waste too much time talking about the overall session, because it's pretty standard fare. Terry and I did 2 hours. This was maybe 2 hours. It was a total breeze. Like, for him, that was a layup. Like, doing like a little one-off piece like that, especially on my legs, where my legs haven't seen as much war as my arms. Even the blackouts on my arms were a lot more extensive than my legs. My legs were fully covered, and a lot of it was full color, but there was also a lot of negative space utilized in black and gray portraits and stuff like this. My legs just weren't as densely packed as my arms and stuff, right, and my torso. Nowhere has been tattooed more than my torso. I actually had like a full torso before I had full sleeves, which is rare for people these days, because most people, and I work on the inside of a tattoo shop, most people just want sleeves. They don't even give a fuck about the rest of it. Most people don't even consider getting bigger work, like full torso, full back, and usually it's well after their sleeves. And you're even seeing people doing hands and necks and shit first. Like, we had a girl get a fucking cowboy hat on her neck the other day. So my torso has been reworked more than probably any torso there's ever been, but certainly the most on me. Then it's my arms and my neck and my hands and stuff. I've never skipped leg day. I always had a lot of leg tattoos, but for me, because I don't wear shorts that often, they've never been as like important to be, you know, as thoroughly detailed out and as polished as things that are on display more often. With that said, why a turd, right? Why a Christmas poo? I'm sure so many people are wondering that, and it's really, there's no better answer than why not, but there are some answers. And first off, like, I always loved South Park growing up, and the most iconic thing in South Park for me will always be Mr. Hanky, just because early on in that show, that was one of the most off-the-wall things I can remember seeing in a cartoon when I was growing up. It was like, how are you going to have Christmas shit? Like, this is insane. And I really think that all of the Adult Swim shows that came like after that and around that point owe a debt of gratitude to South Park for that kind of off-the-wall random bullshit that they came up with Mr. Hanky. And I still think the first seasons of South Park were different. They weren't as politically interesting maybe, but they were more crass and just kind of raw and kind of random. And I don't think you would get a Mr. Hanky type character if they started the show today, with the way that the show is being written today. That's not to say I don't still enjoy some South Park, but I really liked Mr. Hanky. I always thought he was fucking hilarious. And, you know, when I was doing the rose sleeve and like even the blackout and things like this, I had so many people just be, you know, that's trendy, or, oh, he blacked out his whole body just so he could do roses, and all these stupid comments from more or less morons. But Terry and I were always joking, like, we're going to do a Mr. Hanky one day, because like he loves doing little cartoon tattoos, and so this has been this is not a one that just came out of nowhere. This was something we were talking about doing for at least 2.5 years. I think we started talking about this before the rose sleeve, because I already had the rose on my hand and the neck and stuff like this, and I was already getting those kinds of comments. But it was always like, I think he thought I was kidding. And as we got closer and closer, I think he kept thinking that I was going to back out of it. It's like, who really wants a piece of shit tattooed on their ankle, right? I was like, no, dude, it's going to be the cleanest piece of shit ever. And it's going to be amazing because it's going to be done over black, right? Like, it's going to be hilarious. Like, and also, it's a bit of a fuck you to typical tattoo convention, too. And I love that. You know, even in heavy body mod, you get these guys that, and this is not a slag at anyone, but you got like Black Alien Project, now you have Incro Alpha. You've got these guys like, there's a lot of them where like their body is like one theme all over, and that's cool, but they really commit to almost like the gimmick of it. Even their like social media portrayal is very much into like the project of being this thing. EphemeralRemy has never really been that. I've been a guy who likes getting tattooed. I'm not putting any mysticism with it. In fact, my social media has been, if anything, counter to that. Whether or not people take the time to invest or dig into it, I've been a very rounded human, and that is uncommon in this. It's always like, you know, you're wearing your image and then the image becomes you, kind of. Whereas I have always said, I'm not the tattoos, I'm wearing the tattoos. I'm not really committed to this creature character thing that a lot of people do. And though my torso is largely a consistent project, that's why I can have a back piece that is Krampus and this completely random chest piece and you know, whatever the hell's going on my torso, I've always considered to be a monster in a rose garden. It's not necessarily connected, it's just, you know, you bring it together through, you know, shading and different color schemes and tones and stuff in a way that it works, but it doesn't have to all be one thing, right? I've been very clear that like a bodysuit can be comprised with many different ideas. I think when people get too committed to these big one-piece things, sometimes you lose some of the fun with it, and I wanted my legs particularly to be a lot more fun and kind of random than my upper body. So, you know, it's a bit of my little fuck you to convention. You can expect more of those to come. A lot of people, they think they need like these crazy fucking stories attached to their tattoos. Realistically, like that Mr Hanky on my ankle, as much as this is going to bother some people to hear it, it's as meaningful as any tattoo that's ever been done. It honestly is. At least there's some thinking that went into it and some kind of story behind it. Whereas a lot of people are almost just looking for a justification to get a tattoo. I'm getting a tattoo because I enjoy being tattooed. I enjoy tattoo as a look. I think a lot of the work that's done these days, people are almost like they're looking for an image and then they use that as an excuse to, or they'll use some crazy story as an excuse to get one, right? Like they'll attach some kind of arbitrary thing to it where it's like, oh, you know, this thing happened in my life, so now this has to happen, and I can get this look, and this represents my journey. It's like, just get the fucking things you like. Those things don't ever make sense or translate to anyone else. I've had people in here on the couch, and they'll be looking at things like they'll be Googling, what's a meaningful tattoo for your mother? You know what I mean? Like, they'll literally be like, Pinterest looking for that and it's just like, just fucking get the one you want. Your mother doesn't give a shit, and if she did, she wouldn't be happy with you for doing this. She'd probably be disappointed. So, you know, tattoos they're a vanity project for sure. They don't have to be anything too crazy though. I do have some meaningful ones, and almost no one would ever be able to pick those out without me explaining it to them. And the amount of people are going to remember or give a fuck about the meaning behind your such and such are few and far between. You have to live with it forever. Now, I think it's fucking hilarious to have a piece of shit on my ankle that is executed very, very well. And obviously, the first pass is probably going to be faint. But we're going to do the work, and I want that to be one of the punchiest tattoos I have ever had. I told Terry that from the beginning. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it proper. We'll do like 3 pass, full fucking highlight, you know, the whole thing. Like, it's got to be an incredible piece of shit on my ankle. It'll be the cleanest piece of shit you've ever seen. And so then when people ask me, you blacked out your whole body just so you can do roses? No, not just roses. Roses and shit. Christmas poo. Literal poo. And fuck you, right? Yes, I did that. And yes, it means more than the lion that you got for your grandfather. You know why it means more? Because I got it because I wanted it, right? That's all it ever had to be. Whereas a lot of people are just, they want a tattoo and they're fishing for a reason, and they want some fucking like bullwinder. Oh, it's this big grand fucking thing. Oh yeah, and then comes time to actually sit for it and pay for it, and they want it done as fast as possible and as cheap as possible. And it's like, oh, I thought you said you wanted this fucking thing to be meaningful. Well, that comes in contrast with your obvious issue with payment and the time it takes and all of these things. If it really meant all of that to you, then there would be no issue with any of those things. So I just think it's funny that I'm going to have more time and effort and energy put into a piece of shit on my ankle than most people are willing to put into for their cherished loved ones and fucking memorial things and all of these like crazy bullwinders about strength and fucking honor and all this crazy shit that I've heard. It's like, no, me, I just got a piece of shit. It ain't more meaningful than that. I got it because I wanted it, and more people should just embrace that, right? Not everything needs to be that complicated. But man, I was pretty impressed watching those browns going over black. You know, we haven't done a whole lot of, I think Rick's used a few little browns here and there for different little things, but that's the most solid brown I've had put in over black. And I was like, man, that brown is a force. It was just pure love of the game. Just Terry and I just both smiling the whole time. Like, I think both of us were like, I was excited and thrilled that it was finally happening, that we were finally getting to this. And like, I think he was just impressed and like confused and also like in bewilderment that the day had finally come. Like, I think he always thought it was just going to be like this little inside joke we always talked about and never actually came to be. Especially because I have so much shit on the go, literally, in this case, that it's like, oh yeah, we gotta do this first, Terry. And he's like, yeah, sure, we'll get to it one. And he's starting to lose faith that it's ever gonna happen. And then finally the day comes when it's like, hey Terry, it's time for Mr. Hanky. And he's like, oh, I've got the design ready to go. And I think he was expecting me to kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to go that crazy with it. But we went there. And it was, how do you look at that thing and not smile, you know? Like, it's just such a fucking charming little tattoo. And honestly, like, that's what I like about tattoos sometimes, is just the kind of off-the-wall nature of them and just the ability for them to put a smile on your face. And I don't really have any of those guys right now, and I got to have a few more of them by the end of it. But I had some of those in my first suit, and you can expect to see some more random shit like that in the future. Maybe not more actual poo, but things of that nature. Anyway, I will talk to you guys again soon when I'm not working on shit. And have a great day.